June 24, 2016, a date that will be etched into the memory of a generation. As dawn breaks, the United Kingdom wakes to a new and uncertain reality, one shaped by a single seismic decision. The people have voted to leave the European Union, ending more than 4 decades of partnership. The news ripples across the nation, leaving millions stunned and speechless. In living rooms, cafes, and offices, disbelief hangs in the air. For some, it's a triumphant break for independence, a long-awaited reclaiming of sovereignty. For others, it feels like a disaster, a step into the unknown that threatens their future. The result defies pollsters, rattles global markets, and splits the country in two. The shockwaves are immediate and profound. Jubilant crowds pour into the streets, waving Union Jacks and singing patriotic songs. For them, this is a victory for ordinary people, a chance to take back control. Meanwhile, millions, especially the young, feel a deep sense of loss. They fear isolation, lost opportunities, and a future that suddenly seems less certain. The pound plunges to historic lows, uncertainty thickens like fog, and the nation feels less united than ever before. Businesses and families alike brace for what comes next. This isn't just politics, it's personal. The decision cuts deep, dividing friends, families, and communities. Britain looks in the mirror and sees two faces, one nostalgic for the past, the other forward-looking and afraid. The generational divide is stark and painful. The vote is over, but the battle for the nation's soul has just begun. Protests erupt, and the streets fill with passionate voices on both sides. No one, not even the architects of Brexit, has a clear plan for what comes next. The government scrambles to respond, but answers are few and far between. The country is divided, its borders and identities suddenly more pronounced. The road ahead is uncharted, and every path seems fraught with risk. The United Kingdom has never felt less united. Old certainties have vanished, replaced by doubt and suspicion. The sense of bewilderment is palpable. Across the nation, people search for answers, but find only more questions. The air is thick with anxiety and hope, dread and celebration. Every emotion is magnified, every conversation charged with meaning. The only certainty is that the journey ahead will be messy, unpredictable, and deeply contested. The nation stands at a crossroads, unsure which way to turn. Every choice feels momentous, every step uncertain. The Brexit vote is a national uncoupling, a dramatic break from the past. The consequences are only beginning to unfold, and no one knows where they will lead. The story of Brexit is just getting started. The world is watching, and the next chapter is unwritten. Brexit didn't just redraw political lines, it tore through families, friendships, and communities. Suddenly, neighbors eyed each other with suspicion. How did you vote? Became a loaded question. Generational divides deepened. The young felt betrayed, the old felt vindicated. Cities like London clashed with rural towns, and national identity itself was up for debate. Social media turned toxic, amplifying anger and resentment. Scotland, forced out against its will, reignited talk of independence. Northern Ireland faced renewed uncertainty, threatening its fragile peace. The UK fractured along ancient seams, losing control of its own cohesion. The vote to take back control left Britain more divided than ever. A house divided, with no easy path to unity. The Leave campaign was a masterclass in political marketing, an operation that understood the power of simple messages and emotional appeal. It wasn't just about facts and figures, it was about stirring up hope, frustration, and a sense of national pride. Remember that big, red bus? It became an icon overnight, rolling through towns and cities, grabbing headlines and attention wherever it went. We send the EU $350 million a week, let's fund our NHS instead. That slogan was everywhere, repeated until it felt like undeniable truth. It was catchy, but misleading. Experts quickly pointed out the numbers didn't add up, but the message stuck in people's minds. The campaign promised sovereignty, booming trade, and strict border control. They said Britain would finally take back control of its laws, borders, and money. They painted a utopian vision. Britain, free from Brussels, would thrive. The future was bright, full of opportunity, and renewed national pride. Trade deals would be easy, they claimed. The world would line up to do business with a newly independent UK. Immigration would fall, borders would be secure, and the NHS would flourish, finally getting the funding and attention it deserved. The message was simple: more money, more control, less immigration. It was a promise of prosperity and security, wrapped in patriotic colors. It was a dream sold to those left behind by globalization. Communities that had seen jobs disappear and wages stagnate, hoping for a better tomorrow. The promises were irresistible, a political fantasy league where every wish could come true, and every problem had a simple solution. Who wouldn't want more money, more control, and a brighter future for their children? The campaign tapped into deep hopes and anxieties, but the reality was more complicated. Negotiations dragged on, and the easy answers promised on the campaign trail began to unravel. The campaign sold a future where Britain could have its cake and eat it too, enjoying all the benefits with none of the costs. But as we'd soon learn, the cake was mostly illusion. The promises faded, replaced by tough choices and unexpected consequences. The promises would quickly unravel, leaving many to wonder if the dream they'd been sold was ever real at all. The morning after, the promises began to crumble. The $350 million for the NHS, disavowed within hours. The pound crashed, prices rose, and businesses faced new barriers. Factories closed or moved, jobs disappeared, and the bonfire of regulations never came. Trade deals proved elusive. The US deal vanished, others disappointed. Net migration didn't fall, it soared as labor shortages forced the government to loosen visa rules. The dream of control over borders backfired spectacularly. The reality: more paperwork, higher costs, and a weaker economy. The Brexit hangover was real, and the cleanup had only begun. The gap between promise and reality was impossible to ignore. How did Leave win? By mastering emotional messaging. Take back control. 3 words that meant everything and nothing. It was a blank canvas for hopes and fears, laws, borders, identity. The Remain campaign, by contrast, offered dry facts and economic warnings. Leave sold a dream. Remain sold a spreadsheet. In the battle of heart versus head, heart won. The campaign framed the debate as people versus elites, dismissing experts as conspirators. Facts became irrelevant. Emotion ruled. It was a post-truth campaign before the term existed. Leave wasn't selling policy, it was selling rebellion. The power of a simple, emotional slogan changed history. The lesson in politics: feelings beat facts. Years later, the numbers are in, and they're grim. The UK's own fiscal watchdog says Brexit will shrink the economy by 4%. Exports and imports are down 15% compared to staying in the EU. Business investment flatlined, and the global Britain dream faded. Trade with Europe became a bureaucratic nightmare. Small businesses suffered most. Prices rose, especially for food, hitting households hard. The promised savings never materialized. Instead, Brexit made the country poorer. Jobs, wages, and investment all took a hit. The easiest trade deal in history became a mountain of red tape. By any economic measure, Brexit has failed. The numbers don't lie, even if politicians still do. The years between the vote and departure were chaos. David Cameron resigned, leaving a leadership vacuum. Parliament was paralyzed, governments fell, and the country became a global punchline. Theresa May's compromise failed. Boris Johnson promised to get Brexit done. His deal delivered a hard Brexit, creating new trade barriers and a customs border in the Irish Sea. Northern Ireland was left in limbo, angering unionists and complicating peace. The process deepened national divisions and paralyzed decision-making. Businesses and families put plans on hold, waiting for clarity that never came. By the end, exhaustion replaced hope. Brexit wasn't a single event. It was a slow, grinding ordeal. Admitting regret over Brexit was once taboo, but Brexit is now widespread. Polls show a clear majority now believe leaving was a mistake. The promised benefits never arrived. Prices are up, labor shortages are everywhere, and travel is harder. The NHS crisis deepened, not improved. The bonfire of red tape became a mountain of paperwork. Trade deals disappointed, and migration hit record highs. The Leave campaign's checklist became a list of failures. Now talk of rejoining the EU is no longer off limits. Politicians remain cautious, but public debate is shifting. Ordinary people are asking, if this isn't working, what's the alternative? The tide of opinion is turning, slowly but surely. The Brexit dream has soured. So, will the UK rejoin the EU? The question lingers in the air, debated in homes, pubs, and parliament alike. But the answer for now is clear: not anytime soon. The wounds of Brexit are still fresh, and the path forward is anything but simple. The road back to Brussels is long, winding, and politically fraught. It's not just a matter of signing a document, it would mean starting from scratch, renegotiating every term, and facing a skeptical Europe. The journey would test the resolve of any government brave enough to attempt it. The UK would no longer enjoy its old privileges. Instead, it would face tough new terms, likely with less influence and more obligations than before. The days of special deals and opt-outs are gone, replaced by a far more rigid set of rules. No major party is ready to champion rejoining. Both the Conservatives and Labour fear reopening old wounds, risking political chaos and alienating voters who still feel passionately about Brexit on both sides of the divide. Meanwhile, the EU itself may be wary of welcoming back a partner that left so recently and so noisily. Trust would need to be rebuilt, and the bloc may hesitate to open its doors to a country seen as unpredictable. For now, the UK is left trying to make Brexit work, a task that often seems near impossible. Economic challenges, trade barriers, and political divisions continue to test the nation's patience and resilience. The nation stands at a true crossroads. Should it cling to a dream that many now see as failed, or admit past mistakes and seek a new path forward? The choice is daunting, and the consequences will shape Britain for generations. The debate is no longer whispered behind closed doors, it's out in the open, filling headlines, sparking protests, and fueling passionate arguments across the country. The very soul of the nation is still up for grabs. People from all walks of life are questioning what it means to be British in a post-Brexit world, and what future they want to build together. The story of Brexit isn't over. It's merely entering a new chapter. The next moves will define not just Britain's relationship with Europe, but its identity on the world stage.